push and hold that button.
Okay. So I have the mics on. They're on mute right now. And I made sure. And that's only in the mics. It's only in the mic stands.
Can I sit anywhere?
Not that one. That's not free.
Don't use, you can use this one.
For this one, do not use these two. But that one should also be okay. And I have one back here.
Okay. So the one
All right, boss, you ready? It's amazing. Standing room only, kind of.
It's kind of my biggest turnout ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna pretend.
Could you go grab the rest of the panelists and tell them to come up, take a seat?
Can I drink my coffee at the table?
I'm drinking my tea. Yeah, and I understood that one of the guys from Caterpillar Okay. Hey, what's going on? I'm Travis. I'm the guy that just opened the community clothing store. So I know you guys do something similar with food. So.
Are you?
All right, everybody wave.
In downtown Denver.
Yes, I just saw it.
Yeah.
I just shared that on my page.
Yeah, that's me. So. Yeah, please do.
I like on the right.
Where'd my pen go? Yeah, is this your
Gosh, no pressure. I like people security on the right.
We have enough chairs. I see a beverage.
Testing.
Oh, are you waiting on one? I don't know. We should. Hey, grab one from out of that desk right there if you need one. We can all scoot down a little bit. Oh, did we not count correctly? It's odd. So.
I was excited.
I don't even live in this county, so.
Well, welcome to Arapahoe County and to Inglewood. This could get rowdy, but it may not. So some of the people who are likely to cause trouble aren't.
Oh, good.
But we have some plans for keeping that at a minimum.
Yes, I was
Like
the
last
Thanks. Thank you for.
Hey, I'm
Hi, Melanie.
door, man.
I'm
How
glad
are
that
you?
our paths crossed, my man.
Yeah, something's happening.
Honor, it's a privilege.
Hey, dude, I think it's the exact same thing being in my position, just being a part of this group.
Yeah. And so cool. And there's so much hope in it, you know? Sometimes we think, like, who cares? But seeing this group together and people do care.
Absolutely.
Is that the media back there that I'm seeing? Or is that somebody's video is for it?
Yeah.
Amazing. Zach,
Oh,
we're interviewing.
yeah,
So
Probably.
What are we waiting for down here?
Donna's up here.
that's what I was thinking.
Reed. I think that's it.
Good luck finding a seat, everyone.
Good evening, everyone.
Let us about homeless people.
We're going to get started here in just a couple minutes. We might start just a couple minutes late because we have a massive turnout, which is awesome. So we're bringing out some extra chairs to fill up here. So let's just make this our 2-minute warning, and then we'll start in about 2 minutes as soon as everyone finds a seat. And if we have to pack in standing in the back, that's okay too. So 2 minutes.
I get nervous. I'm just going to squeeze really
I will squeal like a girl. Hey, in our meeting this morning, Conti kept referencing Mauricio, and everybody seemed to know. Okay, I wrote who was Mauricio, and I meant to ask.
I meant to ask afterwards, too.
Because, like, Donna and Ann seemed to know exactly who that was. Like, maybe something to do with Littleton.
Ooh, Dry Bones is here. Dry Bones is here.
Oh, for real? Right on.
Chris or Mark?
I don't know. Who are you talking about?
You see the guy in the glasses walking past Barrington right now?
Yeah. He looks familiar. So probably have met him, yeah.
You know what? He was at one of the South Platte meetings, if you were.
Oh, okay. I was, but there was the one I went to that like 25 people. Impressive. So,
This was the follow-up, the second.
I did remember that. Oh man, my church is showing up. This is good. I've seen a total of like
I'm not sure. Somewhere right in between.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some people that have come up to me
Yeah.
saying, like,
Don't worry about it.
yes.
But also,
Good.
I feel a lot
That's
of
awesome.
peace in this.
Good.
It's
Get the word out there.
it's a lot
In
of
fact, actually, yeah.
redemption and
Since you guys
things
catered
that
that
were very hard in my life, now having a
at least
different
two
meaning.
people have changed our meeting location to.
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
had a
There's
meeting
a
set. They're
lot
like,
to
hey, can we
process.
change it to the cafe? Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. A lot.
but it's all good. It's all good stuff. I feel very blessed, very honored to be here.
Good. Just talk like you did to us today, and don't worry about it.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a crazy turnout.
I know. I just told someone, oops, my bag's somewhere. Yep. I said, I'm going to say everything I do now, we're all mic'd up, so
You're going to say what?
I can't say it because that will pick me up.
Oh.
I should probably tell everyone.
This is the microphone right
So
here?
you know, those mics in front of you are going to pick up everything you say, so if you have a side conversation, make sure you take it back and do it quietly.
All right. Thank you. I wouldn't have any idea, but go ahead and plug it back in if you're...
Really being filmed?
Is it recording us right now?
It's
trying to think if I've said anything
live,
appropriate.
so all the city council meetings are like live
Stop
streaming,
saying those
and
things.
they're like
Yeah, but
recorded,
they're
put
recording it.
online.
That's what I've already
Okay.
So
said.
this is what they're doing the same thing.
Okay, so I'll be able to tell my mom.
Oh
go to this
yeah,
website.
mom. Here's a little link to this website. Check out minute 38 through 45.
Yeah. All right.
Your sun is shining.
Yeah. It's gonna blow her mind. Like she's gonna cry.
Maybe more like 130.
Yeah. I like to embellish. I'm going to go with 150. So my wife's proud of me.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. We're going to get started. I know some people are still trickling in, and we have some sitting room and standing room in the back, and that's great. Thank you so much for turning out tonight to engage in this really important conversation with us. I want to introduce myself, and I want to introduce this group that's the panel tonight. My name is Mike Sandgren. I'm on staff here at a local church, Wellspring Church here in Inglewood. I'm the coordinator of Compassion Ministry. And in recent months, I've been taking charge of helping facilitate the group Change the Trend, which has really developed in recent months into a formal network of representatives from a variety of agencies here in Inglewood who have come together to really start a conversation about what constructive engagement with the issue of homelessness here in the city looks like. Historically, Change the Trend was kind of birthed out of a joint effort between the Inglewood Police Force and then Unite Inglewood, which is a coalition of churches and nonprofits here in Inglewood who have come together to kind of serve the city in a variety of ways. So it's really been about a year now that there have been a series of conversations happening about the issue of homelessness, and really last fall, at the last of those meetings, a task force was commissioned to really kind of hit the ground running in terms of doing some work in terms of engaging the issue. And that task force started meeting on a weekly basis in September or October, and we've been meeting every week, and a lot of the panelists tonight were part of that original task force, and we've added a few friends here and there. And long term, we realized that a task force with a short-term structure wasn't enough to combat the issue of homelessness, and it really took a long-term commitment. So we shifted our organizational structure several months ago into a formal network and branded ourselves Change the Trend. And we've really had two focuses of long-term work so far. Number one is, you'll hear when we introduce the panelists, a lot of the panelists and the agencies represented on the network have close relationships with a lot of the folks here in Inglewood who are experiencing homelessness. So the network sees itself as very well positioned to give a collaborative, united front towards individualized attention to our friends on the streets who are actively looking for pathways to more stability, and really coming alongside them in that sense. So that's been one of our long-term tracks of work. And then the second is really tonight is the fruition of the second effort of really inviting the community into the conversation about what constructive engagement looks like. So we've been introduced to City Council, we've been in conversation, and then tonight is the first of a series of forums that we plan on hosting, just education-wise and really kind of trying to channel conversation about the issue into one space that's intentionally civil, respectful, productive. You know, we recognize that this is an issue, and there are probably represented in the room tonight a variety of perspectives and opinions about the issue of homelessness. And we just want to say that Change the Trend is really a place to foster dialogue and openness to a variety of perspectives, as long as that's done with an aura of civility, respect, dignity to people who might think differently about the issue than you. And that's the ethos that we will have tonight, and we will be firmly we will firmly hold on to that respectful dialogue ethos. And I think you'll see even on the panel we have a variety of angles represented. I want to say hello to a couple distinguished representatives here tonight. Number one, Police Chief John Collins is here tonight. We have the Assistant City Manager, Mark Wolf, and we also have several members of City Council represented here tonight. So we really appreciate you all taking the time to be here to join us in this conversation. Thank you. Now with that, I want to transition into our panel discussion. So tonight we'll have three sections of tonight. So we'll have a panel discussion with the Change a Trend Network members here. And then we'll have, at the end, probably about 20 minutes for question and answer time, where you'll have a chance to articulate a question to a panelist or the panel at large and have them respond to your question. And then the last maybe 10 minutes or so will be just kind of open networking time. We have a variety of agencies who are both on the Change a Trend network and just affiliated partners of the network represented here tonight who are doing work in terms of engaging the homeless community here in Inglewood. So the last 10 minutes or so will be just an opportunity for you to kind of visit their booths stationed in the back of the room to engage with them and learn about the work that they do as individual agencies. So with that, let's have some introductions from our panelists. Why don't we start down at the end, and each panelist will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, the agency they represent, and their primary interaction with the issue of homelessness.
I'm Reed McGrath. I'm a sergeant with the Inglewood Police Department. I supervise the impact and traffic units. And as part of my duties as impact sergeant, we work with a variety of quality of life issues in the city, one of which is homelessness. In that vein, I sit on Change the Trend, the task force or work group that we formed to address issues and look at solutions. One of the things I'm looking at is more regionalization, especially police-wise, working together. So I want to thank my friends from Arapahoe County and Denver Police for showing up, and a number of other people in the room that have taken their time out. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Tony Arnoldi for the Inglewood Police Department. I am the Community Relations Specialist. I also am on the network of Change the Trend, and my, part of it is to engage the community and help answer any questions from community members and engage you all to help us in our quest.
I'm Adam Becker, and I kind of represent personal experience. I spent the better part of 10 years homeless in various cities, locations, and dealing with my own addiction issues, and finally landed here in Denver. And after getting some help and meeting Boo at Cafe 180, we started talking, and he brought me on board with Change the Trend, and I hope to bring some insight from that experience, and I'm really honored to be here.
Quickly, Boo, panelists, just when you speak, just make sure you're leaning close to one of the microphones in front, just so it's picked up. Thanks.
My name is Boo Crosby. I am the manager at Cafe 180 here in Inglewood. We are a nonprofit cafe. We believe every person that comes to the door should be able to be provided a meal regardless of their ability to pay. So our friends that can't afford the meal at the time, we give them the opportunity to work with us in the cafe for an hour, and that will pay for their meal. For our paying customers, we don't have any price on the menu. Everything's donation-based. So we would just ask that you make a donation based on what you can or what you feel you should pay for your lunch. Anything more than that, just going to pay it forward and help one of our friends get a free lunch. Again, I'm the manager there. I'm part of the Change the Trend Network. I'm also a volunteer at Giving Heart and the Severe Weather Network shelter.
My name is Nathan Hoag. I lead a small church called the Sacred Grace here in Inglewood. We're located right behind the Gothic Theater on Acoma. We started about 2 years ago, and our express purpose as a church is to take responsibility for and care for the city of Inglewood. And so we've partnered with lots of other churches in the area, the Change the Trend Network, and other agencies to do the best that we can to serve this particular community. My family and I also live a block from the church at Bannock and Eastman, and because of our church and our home's proximity to the light rail station, Broadway, Hamden, the Denver border, the Platte River, we interact with the homeless population on a daily basis. And so our posture of our church has always been one of hospitality. You're accepted here just as you are is a sort of a theme and a motto that we use pretty frequently. And that's also become a posture of our family as well. And so it's been important for us to be on the network as kind of just citizens, kind of like all of you, living in the city of Inglewood and interfacing with this population almost all the time.
Hi, my name is Christina Kennedy. I'm here with All Health Network, and I'm part of the Assertive Community Treatment team at All Health Network. And we work with clients every day that struggle with homelessness, finding stable housing, finding secure housing, and staying in that housing with their mental illness. And so I'm here to represent that part of the community.
My name is Lynn Ann Heising. I'm the Executive Director for Severe Weather Shelter Network, also a member of the Change the Trend Network, and our express purpose is to provide emergency overnight shelter on life-threatening winter nights for people living on the streets.
And I am Donna Zimmerman, Giving Heart Program Director. And Giving Heart, we interact with the homeless community by providing a safe place. We also partner with Severe Weather Shelter. We are the registration site, and we are the warming site so that they can get transportation to the host sites.
Thank you, panelists. So our conversation tonight will take kind of a narrative structure. So we'll focus one section on the panelists will discuss the causes of homelessness, and then we'll move into a time of really examining what life on the streets for some of the people that we're in relationship with looks like, and with particular attention to the experience of being homeless and the experience of kind of the relationship with the broader community during that time. And then we'll finish the panel discussion by a section looking to what the journey home looks like, what the journey out of homelessness and some of the challenges and achievements that process brings along with it look like. So with that, let's start with the section on the causes of homelessness. The first question is for Adam, Boo, Lynn Ann, and Christina. What are the primary personal factors that contribute to homelessness? Let's have Adam, maybe you can share first.
Well, I mean, from my own experience, the primary causes of it were, a lack of direction, not feeling a call towards something in particular, so my life became a default. And that default landed me on the streets, landed me experimenting with drugs and alcohol and finding a path that way. And I think that part of that was just not being mentored at a young age towards things that I was passionate about.
Again, just make sure you're talking into the microphone or projecting.
Okay, it's my first time.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Boo.
Going off of that, I think that other big factors can be loss of a job. A huge one is having your bills be higher than the amount that you earn. I think in 2014, that was sort of the last stat I could find, but 1 in 4 people were paying, I think, it's supposed to be 30%, and they were paying 50% of their income was going towards housing. Here in Denver, we are the 4th city behind 3 Bay Area cities with the highest rent in the last decade. In the last decade, our Denver metro area rent has jumped almost 50%, and the wages for unskilled, low-paying jobs just haven't hiked up with it. people getting sick, disabled, mental illness, those are all huge factors in it. I've met so many different people with so many different stories and ways of what led them to the cycle of living on the street.
Oftentimes for our clients, we notice that they have difficulty in maneuvering what resources are available, where they can find them, when they do find them, how to engage landlords in available housing for people that are living with mental illnesses, and just the affordability and availability of housing has been quite a challenge for most people.
Mm-hmm. I think my friends have pretty much covered it, but in our shelter experience, what we hear a lot of is family crises of one kind or another. Somebody maybe experiences a divorce that goes badly, and the ability to recover from that emotionally, mentally, financially can end up causing somebody to be on the street. Other issues that we have experienced around the dinner table are medical health issues. We have a number of individuals who have sheltered with us who experienced cancer or were experiencing cancer, and the cost of their medical bills ended up running them out of their home. So those are all in the suburban corridor, very common to what we see is a lot of that. We do see some substance use and abuse, but I would say it's more substance use than abuse.
Thank you. So aside from the personal factors, this next question is for Reed, Lynn Ann, and Nathan. What do you see as some of the primary systemic factors that contribute to homelessness?
From my personal observations in law enforcement, the lack of mental health treatment has been a huge barrier to many people. Many people that we encounter on the street have mental health and or co-occurring substance abuse disorders, and it's difficult for them to get access to the help, and I think Christina mentioned it, difficulty navigating the services. Other systemic issues, I did a little research because I didn't have a great answer for this, and the first thing I came across was a lack of income. So that, of course, spans from any number of things. But one thing that has changed in our society substantially is a change from an industrial society to a global society, and that change took people who might otherwise be employable and able to make decent, livable wages and put them out of the job market. There's a lot of service jobs out there, but they don't pay well, and they require more people skills than some of the industrial jobs would, something that some of the people that we run across might not be able to cope with because of a variety of situations and circumstances in their life.
Nathan?
Sure, yeah. There's several systemic things that come to mind when I was thinking through this question. I think the thing that became most prevalent was the navigation of the resources that are available. Christina touched on this. One of the ways that our family engages the homeless population is through foster care. So we have kids who live in our home, many of whose parents are homeless, and so we get to be a part of these meetings where the parents are trying to jump through all the hoops to get their kids back, and we're behind them 100% for them to do this as best we possibly can be. And I listen to all the things that they have to do, and I think to myself, there's no way I could navigate this. If I were to lose one of my children, there's no way I'd be able to get them back because I wouldn't be able to do the things that is required of them. The navigation of resources is extremely unclear. Even in a city like Denver, where it's all technically all in one place, it's still very difficult to figure out what to do next and what to prioritize. Mm-hmm. In a city like Englewood, it's even more difficult because our resources aren't all working together necessarily. There's no clearinghouse to help a homeless person figure out how to get from step A to step B to step C. So that's I think the major systemic issue that our homeless neighbors are experiencing currently.
Thank you. Lynn Ann?
Some of the things, again, that we hear around the dinner table, which is where we get a lot of our information, frankly, is that even though it is very difficult to access those resources, for some of our folks, they don't trust the system, or they have experienced a lot of red tape, which makes it very difficult to get through the system, and they give up, frankly. Secondarily, case managers tend to be very overworked and overwhelmed. So the social welfare system is not really functional for people that are in desperate need of help. And we do see a number of individuals in our shelter that are experiencing various forms of schizophrenia or paranoia. And for those individuals, to get them to a place where they're willing to even consider going to receive the help is monumental. They have a fear of the medication, a fear of hospitalization, a fear of all of those things. And so you've got to develop the relationship with that person to be able to have the trust to take those next steps. It's very, very challenging.
Thank you. The final question in this section is for Lynn Ann, Donna, Boo, and Christina. What, in your opinion, are some of the primary misconceptions about the causes of homelessness in Englewood and the greater Denver metro area? Why don't we have Lynn Ann go first and work our way down?
I think one of the bigger misconceptions that I'm learning about in the suburban corridor, at any rate, is that many community members believe that there are a lot of people coming from downtown Denver or other places. And while there are people coming from downtown, and I would not dispute that, the majority of your homeless community in Englewood is from Englewood. They probably grew up here. They probably graduated from Englewood High School. They worked here and had families here, and whatever the situation was that put them on the street, this is the geography that they know, the resources that they know, and so they choose to stay here. I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions that I would share. And then just the other piece of that is for those who are suffering or dealing with drug and alcohol addictions, at least the folks that we shelter, many of them did not start out as alcoholics or drug addicts. In fact, when they ended up on the street, they began using alcohol or some form of drug as a coping mechanism to help them sleep at night because of sleep deprivation and the fear and anxiety of being beat up and losing their stuff. So over a period of time, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it's been, they've developed an alcoholism or a drug addiction.
Thanks, Lynette. Donna, I missed you. I'm sorry. Let's circle back to you, and then we'll go down.
I think there's a misconception that fighting homelessness is expensive. And I think that from some of the statistics, whatever, that I've been looking at, that housing makes more sense than the cost of law enforcement, jails, hospitals, community services. It definitely seems more reasonable to house a person. And then, like Lynn Ann said, the homelessness is always related to mental illness or addictions. I think that is a big misconception. Yes, it's very prevalent in the homeless community. And I think I'm going to leave that.
Great, thank you. Boo.
So I would definitely agree with the alcohol and drug abuse portion of what Lynn Ann and Donna just mentioned. What I would say the biggest thing for me, I work with our homeless friends every day. I have really, really close relationships with a lot of them. I would say it's the mentality that some folks take where, you know, this person doesn't want to work for anything. They just want a handout for free. And, you know, in the people that I've met, and I'm not saying everybody's like this, but there are so many dang good people out there. And the Cafe 180 is one place where goodness really comes out in people. I can't tell you how many times homeless persons come up to me after they've eaten lunch, and we make our folks volunteer first, and then they get a meal, come up to me afterward and say, hey, man, I can't thank you enough for the way I feel right now, or how good it feels to work for a meal. Thank you. And, you know, it's something that is a bummer that a lot of these folks are sort of stereotyped that way. Another thing is a lot of these folks just have a heart of gold, and they're just in a bad spot. I think they get portrayed a lot of times as aggressive or mean or intimidating, and all it takes is to either listen to something that they say to you, or to really engage in a conversation with them, and you really see their true colors, which I think is so cool. So I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Boo. And Christina.
I think I agree with the other panelists, but also I think that there's a misconception that it's all substance or mental illness, or that people just need to find a job, or that they're choosing to be homeless. And I think there's a misconception that people that are homeless don't work, and a lot of them do work, and they just can't afford to live or be housed or, afford the things that some of us get to afford. So.
Thanks, Christina. So with that, let's transition into the second part of our discussion about really what the experience of living on the streets looks like. So the first question in this section is for Reed, Tony, Adam, and Nathan. So the question is, what is the relationship like between a person experiencing homelessness and the broader community? So Reed.
People in homelessness are people, and they have hopes and dreams just like the rest of us do. And I think that sometimes people don't understand that. And there's definitely an attitude out there in the community of, we don't want this in our neighborhood. And that's a major collision between people who are homeless and our citizens in general. Probably that's the biggest thing I see, is just a collision of wills and a difficulty with citizens being able to accept this, and definitely there's concerns on both sides of the fence here.
I would have to agree with that. Being predominantly working with the community, I think the biggest thing that I see is just not understanding. A lot of it is, why are they coming here from Denver, and kind of everything that we've touched on. I think there's a lot of people that want to help be part of the solution, but nobody really knows how, which none of us do. That's why we're asking for your help. So I think there's community members that want to help find the solution, and I think a lot of them want to understand, and I hope that we can help them with that.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of my experience with it was there grows to be an us and them mentality. It gets really polarized, and I felt like a second-class citizen. Kind of everywhere I went, I was treated different and looked at differently. And being even just the nature of it, that I spent my time in, digging through garbages sometimes to find food or find, things that I needed, or looking for places to sleep, and sometimes just finding like an alley or like the front of a store, and then being treated that way on top of it, you start to feel just like a piece of garbage, which then perpetuates that self-image and makes it harder to even want to take those steps. You kind of start to see yourself in the mirror day after day, looking that way, and then hearing that and being looked at that way, and it kind of pounds it into you. And then also just being portrayed as a nuisance, getting asked to move along from so many places, or I've gotten a meal somewhere, and as soon as I finish, are you done? It's you got to get out of here, move along, and I'll acknowledge that there are bad apples, definitely, but the bad apples, it spoils it for a lot of really good people out there.
Thanks, Adam. Nathan?
I see a growing disparity between poverty and privilege contributing to this. So if, as the middle class continues to become mushier and mushier, and the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, it's really easy to maintain a mentality of us and them. You've even heard it up here on this panel, and all of us live inside, and most of the people in the room here do as well. from what I know about most of you. And it's easy to talk about the population rather than being integrated and interacting with the population. So finding ways for us to close some of that gap and remember that there is an enormously important human side and human aspect to this conversation is extremely important, I think, for closing that gap.
Thanks, Nathan. The second question, one of the dynamics that most of us have seen and witnessed and even experienced is that the experience of homelessness can contribute to cycles of unhealthiness that reinforce and actually trap a person in their position. So this question is for Boo, Adam, Reed, and Christina. Can you touch on how you've seen this dynamic play out, either in the lives of the people you know or in your own life? So, Boo.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. There's folks that I've pretty close relationships with, have known for a few years, and it seems that self-destruction is their number one enemy. They'll have things going their way for a certain time, and then they'll hit a roadblock or they'll screw up or something will happen, and it'll just catapult them right back into their old ways and their old habits. So it's almost like it's a cycle of survival mode almost. That's the biggest thing I've seen is the self-destruction piece.
Adam?
Yeah, I would agree 100% with that, and I've seen it in my own life, times where I would start to get it together, and then there's a real fear that comes with that. You know, how am I going to handle this? How am I going to deal with the stress of I have bills now, you know, and now I have car insurance, I have, you know, my rent, my utilities, a phone bill, and all these things, and it starts to pile up and be a lot of weight, and I can start thinking about, God, it'd be nice to just sit on a blanket in the park with a 40 or something like that. You know, it's so much the fear that comes with that, and then also kind of like I mentioned before, just that self-image. If you've always seen yourself fail over and over, and other people look at you like you're a failure, and that mentality is against you, it's hard to. We have to remember our inherent worth and say, I am worth it, and I can do this. There is a reason why behind doing this, and to be able to hold on to that, I think that's just the self-destruction is huge.
Thanks, Adam. Let's jump down to Christina, and then we'll go down to Reed.
Oftentimes the people that we are helping on our team have challenges with taking their medications on the streets, managing their symptoms, which often leads to hospitalizations, being able to take a shower, finding places, trying to get to their appointments in a timely manner. Navigating transportation is really difficult for people, and affording a bus pass or even just the amount of money it takes just to get to a bus to and from appointments is difficult. Navigating and accessing housing vouchers are really difficult for our clients that we help. There's not a lot of housing vouchers out there, and so those are really difficult to find affordable housing for them. And just being able to afford housing on a limited income. A lot of the people that we work with are on SSDI or SSI, and being able to afford housing on, $736 a month is not easy for most people.
Thanks, Christina. And Reed?
There's a lot of definitions of homelessness out there, and they range from people that are purely on the street to people that are couch surfing, families doubling up. But the one I really want to talk about for the cycle that I have personally had a lot of experience with are the motels. And we have a lot of motels that people get stuck in and are stuck in that cycle sometimes for years. I think in one of our investigations, we found somebody that lived in one of the motels for 17 years. And they're charging usually $60-ish a day. They get a little bit of a weekly or monthly break, but it can run up to $1,600, $1,700 a month, and they can't get out of that. And then with that lifestyle comes exposure to drugs alcohol abuse, and just a different community and a lack of support and potentially even a lack of worthiness, I think, like Adam touched on.
Thank you. So the last question in this section about life on the streets is for Adam, Reed, Donna, and Nathan. What, in your opinion, are the 3 biggest challenges that accompany life on the streets? So let's start with Adam again, and we'll work our way through.
Yeah, I think 3 biggest challenges, first of all, finding that sense of self-worth and then having that reinforced and having kind of forming a support group around you or having people to lock arms with. It's not easy to go from being alone to having people around you and supporting you. I don't think it's something that really any of us can just do by ourselves. I didn't do this alone. And then beyond that, it is, resources, finding affordable place to live. For myself, being a single man, to find a place that I can afford in this area, it's kind of crazy. I was very fortunate, but it's still it's steep rent, and I'm kind of cutting it close. And so I think that's a big hindrance when you're looking and you're seeing these prices, thinking, I don't know if I can do this. And then, after that, having a community around you. I think that's a really big challenge.
Yeah. Thanks, Adam. Let's go down to Reed, and then we'll go to Donna, and then finish with Nathan.
Crime is an issue for many people who are homeless, and it's not necessarily homeless on homeless. I think the vast majority of the people that we deal with day in and day out in the Englewood area are not violent and aren't prone to violence, but they often have their stuff taken, and many of them have chosen to be here because the shelters in the Denver area can be a scary place, and they can get robbed, stolen from, assaulted, and we just heard a story today about someone who was assaulted close to another shelter in Denver, and that seems to happen pretty frequently, and it's pretty concerning for many of them.
Donna?
So I talked to 2 homeless women, and I wanted to get their perspective on the challenges. And they seem to say pretty much the same things, but it's finding a safe place due to fear of sexual assaults and attacks. And it's just the feeling of not feeling safe or even knowing where to go if there's a community supporting them. And some other issues or challenges were time management, just trying to be somewhere on time, but trying to dealing with your daily life. And they reported that it was there was a lot of time that they just wasted trying to get from where they camp to where they need to eat, to where they need to hide their stuff, then to get to transportation. So time management was a huge challenge. And another challenge, like I think as Ben said, that acceptance and fitting in and finding that support system that will walk you through this. Even if it's one person that grabs a hold of you and speaks into you, it's hard to sometimes find that because they don't feel worthy.
Nathan?
The first challenge I see is survival. It's extremely difficult and time-consuming to survive when you're homeless. So if you ever get the opportunity to ask a homeless person what they do day to day, you will find oftentimes that they are far busier than you are. They work very hard many times, and it's just to simply find a place to sleep or find a place to eat. It's not easy to do. So survival is the first challenge. The second challenge, as stated before, is navigating resources, because when you have to choose between going to a job interview or trying to find a meal or trying to find childcare, or you try to go to a job interview but you don't have a shower to be clean for that interview, or you don't have an email address or a phone to receive a phone call back from that interview, you have to make choices on priorities and which comes first, and oftentimes those things cancel each other out. So that would be the second thing. And then The third thing is oftentimes our resources for the homeless population treat symptoms rather than root causes. So we spend a lot of resources, not necessarily our city specifically, but just cities in the United States in general, spend a tremendous amount of resources on treating the symptoms rather than some of the root causes. And I can get to more on that maybe later on, so I don't take up too much time, but we get distracted by those immediate needs instead of working on some of the things that are deeper.
Thank you, panelists. The final section of our panel discussion will focus in on what the journey from homelessness to being housed or to greater stability looks like. The first question in this section is for Boo, Nathan, and Donna. What are some of the most helpful steps that a community can take to help those looking for ways out of homelessness? Let's start with Boo, Nathan, and Donna and just work our way down.
First and foremost, I would just say, engage groups like Change the Trend, Giving Heart, Cafe 180, Sacred Grace, anywhere that, you can give any amount of your time. The woman that started the cafe has a great saying where it's, if everybody does a little bit, nobody has to do a lot. And that's sort of what this issue is going to take. But again, going back to the safe places, I think that is by far the most helpful, is having places that the homeless folks can go, that they do feel safe, that they don't feel threatened or endangered, or just judged. I'll leave it at that.
So a few things that don't work are a head in the sand mentality, like we just are going to ignore the problem. Trying to pass blame or responsibility to someone else doesn't work. And criminalization doesn't work for actually helping people, a community engaging people. Day shelters do work. They give people a safe place to access resources. I serve on the board of trustees for the Denver Rescue Mission, and the Lawrence Street Shelter has created helpful avenues for people to find the help that they need. The second thing would be accessible, navigable resources. So finding a place where everyone can be at the same place and same time so they can get the resources that they need, so they're not out there trying to find all these things on their own. Those are all really important things for a community to come alongside our homeless population. But ignoring it and saying there's nothing we can do or it's not our fault or our problem does not work.
Donna?
Ditto.
Ditto?
I think just definitely connecting with an organization or a network that's already doing the work, and plug in your skills and be a mentor, walk alongside somebody. So.
It really doesn't take a lot at all. You can give 15 minutes to all day. It doesn't matter. But it's really just that experience, and if you really have a true conversation with one of our friends on the street, you really see the human soul inside of them, and you can see that goodness that's in there, that you just need to chat with them to pull it out of them.
Yeah, thank you, panelists. I think that point about the safe places is really significant. If there are areas in the city where our friends on the streets can go, where there's a group of volunteers and staff who are willing to welcome them in and remember their name and show them that dignity, every hour that they're in one of those places is an hour that's productive for them, and it's an hour where they're not having to be out on the streets and having to engage the potentially being perceived as the nuisance to the local business owner, the neighbor down the block. So I think that safe places concept is really significant. The second question, can you touch on the significance of a collaborative effort between multiple parts of a community to help eradicate homelessness? And this question is for Donna, Lynn-Ann, Tony, and Nathan. So maybe let's start with Donna and move our way down.
So I think Giving Heart works very closely with Severe Weather Shelter Network. And when we share guests and we are able to I think we can offer them a wider range of services, especially when Boo and I, we can, there's certain things that he can offer and there's things that I can offer, but yet they're the same guest. So I think that collaborative effort there is working well with what we do. But I think there's so many complexities and challenges in the work that we do that we need that network and we need the support of each individual.
Severe Weather Shelter Network would not exist without a collaborative effort. So I'll just tell you that. That's a collaborative effort amongst the faith community, local law enforcement, city and county. We all are working together to provide that emergency shelter, along with about 800 volunteers. So it's very much a collaborative effort. And without that kind of an effort in any of our communities, there will be no change. So for me to be able to sit on Change the Trend and be one wheel on a bus that's all going the same direction is amazing. And so I just say that to you. So as Change the Trend, part of our task is to identify what are the gaps in the community that exist for our friends living on the street, what is already here for resources, and how do we pull people around us to fill in those gaps so that people like Adam have a smoother path off the street. Because right now there are some serious pre-housing gaps that I believe are preventing people from taking those steps and being successful in making that transition.
Thank you, Lynn Ann. Nathan?
We're discussing a very diverse population, which requires a very diverse approach for solutions, for help, for resources, and so a collaborative effort is obviously going to provide that way better than any one individual or one agency could possibly provide. So that's an extremely important part. Being collaborative is always harder, but also always produces better results. So it might be easier for one of us or someone in the room to just take the charge and go with it, but I guarantee you that it would not produce the results that something like a network of agencies or individuals could do to serve this population in our neighborhood.
Thank you. And finally, Tony.
I feel like I don't need to say anything else. You kind of all wrapped it up. But definitely a collaborative effort is always going to produce more positive outcomes. And I'm always trying to get all of you to engage in everything that we do. I think that if we can all work together and maybe I can be a help with answering some of the questions of where are we at now, you guys being here today is a huge first step. And you know what our goal is, and we know that you know that we want your help, and we want you to be heard as well. So I think if we can just all come together to get on that bus, then we will hit success in a much more rapid speed.
And real quick, we don't have the answer. We don't have a solution.
That's why we need you.
That's why we're up here. That's why we want all of your engagement. Comments, questions, concerns, anything. It's definitely going to take a village to help this issue.
Yeah, thank you. So the final question in this section, before we transition into our time of question and answer, is for every panelist that represents a specific agency who's on the network. So everybody except Adam and Reed will have Tony take this one for the police department. But if you could touch on, finally, what do you see as the biggest contribution that your specific agency can make to helping work against homelessness?
From the Cafe 180 standpoint, I think it's just providing a safe place for both our homeless friends and for every single person in this room. It doesn't matter if you're homeless, have $1 million in your pocket, or businessman, or pushing a shopping cart down the street. Places like Cafe 180 is where a middle school student can have that first initial conversation with a homeless person and really have their mind changed at a young age. So I'll leave it at that for the cafe.
Maybe let's go down to Tony, and then we'll work our way back to me.
And
I'm
Tony
actually
said-
going to defer to Reed. Okay. He kind of has a bigger part of the whole
Sounds
thing.
good.
As law enforcement officers, I think across the nation we realize that using criminal enforcement is not going to solve this problem. And certainly we do enforce violations of criminal law in Englewood on a rather aggressive basis because it affects quality of life. But that's not the answer to getting people off the street. We certainly don't have the answer, but what we do bring as an agency is a lot of connections and a lot of connectiveness, and that goes beyond our agency to the city as well. As we've worked through some of these problems, we've had virtually every department in the city somehow involved in it, from the library, parks. A simple call to open space manager and parks results in a group of people coming together to look at how to solve problems, and that leads into more people, and we learn from Denver how to deal with some of these things and get an education from them about what's it like and what can you do and what can't you do and what works and what doesn't work. So we just have that ability to bring some things together. We get to go to meetings, we get to do some exciting things. We had a meeting this morning. Our county commissioner is here, Kathleen Conti, and we're glad to have her. Just an example of how going to one meeting and another meeting brings us together, and she brings a whole vast group of resources and ideas to us from a variety of sources, and just the ability to connect and say, how do we move to the next level? This is a starting point for us, and we're excited to move on and excited to get more ideas about what's next and how do we do it.
My microphone is out of batteries, so I'm going to project. Boo.
I've already went.
Nathan.
For us, it starts with culture. So both in my home and in my church, we work very hard to cultivate a culture of hospitality where everyone is accepted just as they are. I know that there have been many times in my life where if I had not been accepted just as I was, that I would be in a lot of trouble. And so developing that culture allows us to have face-to-face conversations and shake hands and give hugs to people that we otherwise may not be able to interact with. And then in doing so, because we're a young church and we don't have a lot of resources that we can actually provide, we get to point people in the directions of all these other resources. So we've had the opportunity to say, yeah, you should go down to the cafe. Can I walk you over there? It's just a block away. Or let me tell you where you can stay somewhere that's warm tonight. We get a chance to point people in those directions of those resources. So, but it all begins with hospitality. And teaching my young children that and teaching the people in our church how to do that has been a challenging thing and yet a really beautiful experience, and I think that's really where it begins.
For us, I think just having these conversations, having a forum, having a discussion is the first step, and it's so important, and as well as just connecting with everybody, finding out what resources there are out there. I know for us at All Health, we have a lot of care navigators that are there and available to help people just get connected to resources. So the more we know of what's out there, the more we can help people. And for us, we have a day program that we have that people can come volunteer to get a free lunch. We have different groups so people can get connected with resources to get showers, to go to food banks, and just partnering, I think, is the biggest contribution we can make right now.
So for Severe Weather Shelter Network, obviously we don't shelter every day and we don't shelter all year. It's October 1st through April 30th, and part of our purpose in that is that we don't want homelessness to become too comfortable. When people are uncomfortable a little bit, it tends to at least encourage them to make a step another direction. So by hosting them and having dinner and welcoming them by name and developing relationship with those individuals, we have the opportunity to have friendships that are transformational. My life is different because I've engaged with people who live on the street who taught me more about generosity and hospitality and care and compassion than virtually anyone else in my community. And so for that reason, I will pour myself out on their behalf to help us all understand how to engage that better. But in the meantime, we provide shelter, and ideally we prevent people from freezing to death and experiencing life-changing bodily injury that would prevent them from becoming successful members of society once again.
of Giving Heart's biggest contributions, I believe, is validating a person's true inner worth. So we say that we ignite hope, and by doing that, we welcome them into a safe place. We invest into their lives, and we sit there and we talk one-on-one with them, and we identify characteristics and pathways that have led to each person's unique story of homelessness. And while we're doing that, we believe that we will impact the homeless community and begin to stabilize their lives as we walk one-on-one with them.
And I'll speak just for a second about, on behalf of Wellspring Church, before we transition into the question and answer time. I think that one of the core values that Wellspring brings to this conversation is the belief in the transformative power of hospitality. That's a value that the church has had since it was planted 17 years ago. We've had programs that have intentionally reached out to our neighbors who are experiencing poverty and homelessness in a variety of ways. And really through those programs and that journey, the true transformation that we've seen in some of our congregants hasn't been necessarily from getting food from a food bank or getting a meal on Sunday, but it's been from people in the church remembering their name and welcoming them in and showing them that dignity that a lot of our panelists have touched on. And through that, it forms a self-identity in somebody that I am worthy and I am worthwhile and I am valuable. And similar to Adam's story of going from, sleeping in alleys to having a community that dignifies you and supports you. There's transformative potential in that. So that's something that we've always valued. So with that, let's have a round of applause for our panelists. Now we want to transition into ending our time with maybe just 15 or 20 minutes of open question and answer time. And we want to structure this well. Once we open it up, we want to give you the opportunity to raise your hand. Thank you. We want to give you the opportunity to raise your hand, and I will call on folks. And obviously, we won't get to everybody's questions tonight, unfortunately. But when I call on you, you have 30 seconds to articulate your question. You can articulate it to either one panelist or the panel at large, and then the panel will that panelist will take a couple minutes to respond to your question. And I just want to say, as a word, remember our value of civility and respect. We know there's a variety of perspectives here, but we want to keep this respectful. And we want to make sure if your question is not framed as a question, we can't have anything to answer. So make sure you frame your statement as a question with a question mark at the end. So with that, who would like to ask a question of the panel? Yeah, this is the first hand I saw.
I have a question for the panel. Is there any place for a person on the street to be able to go to find a job? Because I have friends that's out there that has to take everything with them when they go looking for a job or anything.
That's a great question. Which of our panelists wants to address it? Lynn Ann? Yeah, great.
So the answer to your question right now is no. And that is a very big challenge on severe weather nights or for any of our safe places that we have right now. One of the things that Change the Trend has been given a challenge to do is to consider locker systems and how that might work here in Englewood. So please know that we completely understand as much as we can the challenge that is, and we seek to address it. So just know, if you have an idea about how that might work, we would love to hear from you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. This gentleman here.
So, and I appreciate everyone that's come out this evening, because all of you guys have a big heart for the homeless. It's obvious. I have a company in the Bay Area, and I've seen over the last 10 years what a disaster San Francisco has become for the homeless. And I don't want to see decisions that we make here go down that path. So I say all of that to ask a question in that, what is as opposed to the anecdotal information that we're getting tonight, what is the plan for this group? And what program are you guys looking at that is a proven program to actually solve these problems? Not just give one night shelter, not just give a hot meal, not just welcome someone, which is all necessary, but we need a solution that will solve a problem that will become an epidemic at some point.
Good question.
Nathan, do you want to address this one?
It's a great question, and it's important to look to other states, other cities who are doing this better than we are. Utah, for instance, has made a significant impact on their homeless population by solving the problem of housing first. In fact, that's their motto as a state, housing first. A Colorado study showed that the average homeless person in shelters and other resources costs the taxpayer $43,000 a year. Whereas if we were to simply house somebody in some sort of communal housing, it would cost somewhere around $17,000 a year. So significantly less expensive for taxpayers if we are to focus on housing first as a priority. I'm not saying that we as a network are committing to figuring out housing for everybody, but I can say that I've heard from everyone on the committee at some point that if we can, we'd like to help influence change on a city level, maybe even a metro level, concerning finding housing for people who are living on the street.
The program in Utah is not just housing, so I want to be clear.
But it's housing first, right? So So what I'm saying is we've got to pick things to move towards in a priority order. We're starting first with navigating the resources that we have, which are very limited, and then second, moving towards actually creating some navigable solutions for somebody to move from where they are to where they need to be. On average, it takes somebody, an adult, 3 years and $30,000 to move from homelessness to being in a home. That's a challenging trajectory for any city to face.
Thank you. In the back, white, Johnny Mack.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Look, Johnny, I have a job. I work 8 to 5 every day. We're getting busy. I need to hire 3 people. I'm busy. I'm working. I'm homeless. I don't know where to go home to sleep. I mean, I get in trouble because I go places and I sleep. They tell me to move. They tell me to move my tent. But I get up and go to work every morning on time, and I need to hire 3 people. So let's hire people, let's work people, let's go to work and give those people homes. I like to wake up and take a shower and go to work. My boss doesn't care, he's cool. So real quick, but I go to work every morning and I get off of work and I go to this meeting at night and I tell you, I need to hire a couple people. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Johnny Mack. Yes, sir.
Hey, my name is Travis Smith. I serve about 250,000 homeless people every year through a nonprofit that I started called Impact Locally. With regards to the Utah program, what I'd like to know is the city of Denver has had a similar program approved for years, but it's not acted because people are too worried about property value dropping to build housing first. So what is Inglewood going to do to combat that? Because this can't be a problem that you can put in somebody else's backyard. Everybody wants it built somewhere else, and no one's building it. And we've had it approved. I'm on the Denver Road Home Initiative to solve homelessness. It's been approved for almost 5 years now, and nothing's getting done. So what's going to be done to combat that? If you do housing first, if we follow that model, what are you guys going to do to actually build it, here or build low-income housing?
Since I answered that before, I assume you're asking me specifically.
I'm asking anybody.
Okay. Well, I'm going to answer it anyways, or at least I'm going to take a stab at it. There's nothing, to be clear, there's nothing that this network has committed to do specifically just the people up here. What we want and what we need is for everybody to take part in something, and we're trying to figure out what that thing is. We've been around for 6 months. It's not a long time. We're hoping to get more input and do more research and learn more and more and more. This is the first of many of these public forums. So the answer to your question is we don't know. And I just want to be frank with you on that. And we hope to learn from people like you who have been doing this for a long time and have been a part of things that haven't worked. That's really important to us to know where we could get stronger. So thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here.
And
we need to do this together.
Just kind of everybody, just because I've sat in a lot of these kind of meetings, these guys are amazing. I've heard a lot of people get the causes of homelessness or the realities of homelessness, which were all myths, and well-based. I've heard a lot of truth here, and I actually applaud that, because, when I do that, I've been in meetings where I literally have to walk out of the meeting, because I've been homeless myself before, and I literally have to walk out of the meeting out of being upset. And I've actually heard a lot of really good, honesty here with the realities behind homelessness, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, right here.
Yeah, I had a question. What provisions are being put in place to protect the homeless from things like sweeps and criminalization, which has been seen in terms of personally helping homeless people when they've done sweeps, reviews, helping them do this stuff, as is, the dumpster guys collecting. That's a you question. Reed?
Yeah, I think that sounds like...
Yeah, that's probably a question for Reed.
Little bit of trouble hearing completely everything, but I think you asked what's been put in place to prevent sweeps.
And the criminalization of homelessness.
Yeah, well, the Constitution, I think, is the number one tool that we have, hopefully, to prevent the criminalization of homelessness. I will be very honest with you and tell you that we do deal with street-level crimes, and my impact team does a lot of that. So open container violations, visible urinating in public, things like that, we have a very low tolerance for that. And in terms of the sweeps, we don't have any plans of doing that, and if we do, and we have done something that's somewhat related to that, we work with agencies, we post areas, and we look for resources for people. And I hope that we don't come to that point where we have to do the sweeps that Denver does. I have been a part of one of those, and I'm not convinced that it was effective in solving a problem, because we cleaned the sidewalk off, and the people that we moved so we could clean the sidewalk off, when we walked down the street, went right back to where they were, and nothing changed in their lives, and nothing changed in the scenery of things. So I hope we can come to some better solutions than that.
Thank you. I think we have time for 2 more questions. So there's a waving hand back here who's been doing a good job of getting my attention. Would you mind standing up? And yeah, thank you.
Sounds like me.
Great question.
Like
Christina?
I think we are still looking for more answers within the community, but I think at All Health Network, we want to not just treat people's symptoms. We want to help them with resources. We want to help them have a safe place to go to during the day. And also, we provide a lot of therapy to help people to work through the issues that maybe they've had since childhood, or the trauma that they experienced that maybe has led them down the road to where they're at being homeless. And so that's something that we try to do at All Health Network, is to try to, we also have medical care with us too, so we're trying to do the whole person with an integrated health care, mental health care, all of that at All Health. So that's something we're trying to do.
Mike, if I could just add on to that,
yeah.
We are actively partnering with All Health Network and building relationships there to more effectively deliver mental health to the community in conjunction or co-response with the police department. So that's something that Chief Collins has been very involved in, that we're active in building.
Thank you. Final question. You had your hand up first, so you get it. Oh, yeah, you.
I just keep hearing us ask the panel, what are you going to do? And I think that it would be wonderful if we could look at ourselves and say, well, what are we going to do? Like, can we all get together and do like a workshop or like bring our ideas? And because we all see what's going on in the community, so let's get together and help these guys
Can I make a
with some
suggestion
ideas.
to that? Everybody in the room, go volunteer with a nonprofit that works with the homeless for a couple of hours a month. Seriously, once you start to talk with them, experience, volunteer.
And just offer ideas of, like bringing our, solution-oriented, assistance as well.
In all fairness, since you didn't ask a question, that gentleman over there had his hand up for like 10 minutes.
Get this guy right there.
I hope you don't mind. I'd really like
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, one more question.
Right. Well, as a business owner here and also living in the city of Englewood, everybody wants the I don't want it here in my backyard, period. They don't want a blue tile next to their $200,000, $300,000 home, period. The reality is, it's great that you guys are doing the Kumbaya thing. We want to give everybody something. The reality is, these people, most of them are proud. Johnny, thank you for doing your work, man. Yeah. I appreciate that. Adam, these people are trying to get out there. The question is, quit giving stuff away. Start putting programs together to get them to work, to get them into homes, and do that. Johnny, what part of the city and any one of those council people have had to help you try to get a house or into some place to live? Just ask them.
Sir, could we direct the questions to the panel, please? Okay, thank you.
This is a community event, so that's why it's going out both ways. So my question is, out of all you people here, it's great that you're here, what are you doing to help specifically Johnny and Adam to not just give them a handout, but give them a hand up? That's where the problem starts, and it starts at this table.
Okay. Handouts, but not hand-ups. What are we doing? Who wants to address it?
So solely from the Cafe 180 standpoint, there is no type of handout that we give out. Every single person either that comes to the door either pays for their meal or they give us an hour of their time, and they're helping us run the cafe. They're our cafe staff for the day.
So you let them sleep there at night? Just curious.
No, we don't.
They're sleeping
We
in
don't.
the back alley at night.
I understand that, sir. And
ours too, by the way. We all live here. Yeah, just so you
The
know.
program has to be, it's a homeless program. It's not a food program. It's great that you're doing that. It's Cafe 180. It's fabulous. But the reality is, the mother that you're talking about having their teenager go have lunch with a restaurant full of homeless people, it's not going to happen. Just saying.
It happens all the time. You should go to
And just for the sake of time, sir, we appreciate your comments and your perspective, and we welcome that, and we really appreciate it. I do, just for the sake of time, to honor our schedule tonight, we are going to have to wrap up our question and answer time. I do want to the comments about the getting involved and volunteering at a nonprofit here in Englewood. That function is a great segue into our final portion, because we do have a time, the last 15 minutes of our time here. We have several agencies represented. All of the network agencies are represented, and then we have several agencies that aren't on the network but are partners and partners in this type of work with us, represented here in this room. So the event goes till 8, so you have 15 minutes to kind of mingle, chat with panelists, and chat with each other, learn more about the agencies here in Englewood. And then I will say, just finally, before we leave, Change the Trend does have an email list here at the front. If you want to learn more information about the network and keep up to date with some of the work that we're doing, feel free to put your contact info on this list up here at the front table, and we'd love to stay in contact with you that way. So thank you so much for coming, everybody. We really appreciate your time, and have a great night.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you.
I do have
something
Why have I seen you? Because Mike and Joe and yeah. So, to get together. You guys said really good things. You know what? I said almost every
Hope to continue.
And at first I thought it was going to be some
I do have
I'll tell you, I might be homeless, but I'm not Everybody that knows me knows me.
sorry, I know there's a person in the metro area as of 2014. So chronically homeless was 10%. In fact, we want to be housed in some way, and chronically technically means that desire and habits. So it's the metro area theoretically